Yes, it is. James Flippin with you on 77 WABC. We're here every weekday, 2 to 4 a.m. for the time being, but we're taking up the real estate from 4 to 5 today. I'm just moving in temporarily. I'm not unloading my things, keeping my bag unpacked on the little bench there next to the hotel room. But hey, back after the 2020 census, which ended up costing New York one congressional seat because, people are fleeing the Empire State in droves. The state's process, which is meant to be handled by an independent commission following a 2014 constitutional amendment, kind of fell apart. The commission, which was split evenly between Democrats and Republicans, was deadlocked, unable to come up with a voting district map. Couldn't come up with a map. Couldn't come up with a compromise. So in essence, as a result of that deadlock, the reins to draw the the voting map in New York fell to the Democrat-controlled state legislature. This was in 2022. And actually, the Democrat-controlled state legislature surprised everybody and drew up a very fair, balanced map that almost everybody on both sides praised. Just kidding. Little April Fool's joke one day after the fact. No, the Albany legislature, in fact, drew a map that heavily favored Democrats, aiming to produce a 22-4 advantage in the state's 26 congressional districts. And that's despite New York's actual voting electorate, because if you consider like the western part of the state and the upstate area, which is not quite as rabidly progressive as the downstate part, it's not that lopsided. Yes, it's a blue state, but it's not like that. It was definitely a blatant gerrymander, which is the term used for that type of thing. So the map shifted some districts. Long Island's New York District 1, Staten Island District 11, and it ended up leaning blue. These districts ended up leaning blue. So Republican challengers sued. They argued that the map violated that 2014 amendment, which banned partisan gerrymandering. And the Court of Appeals actually agreed in April of 2022. It was a 4-3 ruling. They struck down the map. They said it was unconstitutional. It was skewed. And they said the legislature basically overstepped its authority after that deadlock, after that coalition was unable to come up with an answer on the map. So a court-appointed special master redrew the lines. That produced a much more balanced map. And it was going to be more or less like a 15-11 split. So, the Democrats would still have their, generally speaking, congressional advantage. But some competitive districts, such as the 19th and 22nd district in New York, were maintained. So some people thought it was a decent way to kind of move past this whole thing. But not just a Democrat process to try to do this gerrymandering and this voting redistricting and stuff. It's definitely not just a Democrat thing. It's a bipartisan effort, the politicization of redistricting. Okay, you hear that, Katie Tur? You could pay attention again now because we're going to criticize the red team. Yay. It's certainly true that in New York, Democrats did seize the chance with their unified control in Albany. They gerrymandered. But Republicans have a track record of doing this. In North Carolina, after the 2010 census, the GOP lawmakers redrew the map there and locked in a 10-5, 10-3, I think, congressional edge. And that's in North Carolina, where, as you know, because you watch the results come in, it's very, very split. It's very much a purple state. So courts actually argued that there was some racial gerrymandering in play, and that's where historically, voters or lawmakers might say, oh, there's this whole black section of town over here. Well, yoink, we're going to just carve that one right out of the voting district and add it over to this super conservative one, and they'll be kind of silenced. So that's not right either, right? And in Texas and in Ohio, Republicans face similar arguments that other things have happened. Maybe not so much on a racial side, I don't know, but in terms of the whole Democrat versus Republican thing. So let's make the point. And fine, say it's my politics, but it's local. The New York one is something that we know better. We see the New York one. And the New York Democrats totally chose to ignore and blow past that independent commission, the one that was suggested, and then kind of the state lawmakers said, okay, we can't figure out anything. What do we do? So there was this court order. There's this court ruling saying go with the commission suggestion, the one that's more fair. Well, that didn't end it. That didn't end the issue. The Democrats in Albany more or less tried to ram through a slightly less egregious redistricting map. And then the Republicans sued, and the Court of Appeals has yet to chime in on that one. But all this stuff matters, right? It's very political, unfortunately. Both sides do it. Judges really, really make a difference in this politics stuff. In terms of like lasting consequences, it's not just the silly little injunctions we've seen so much of recently. It's deciding voting districts and stuff like that. But it's definitely bipartisan, okay? Katie Tur, it's not like, if the Republicans do this, they could redraw the voting map and make it so Democrats never win again. So what could the solution be? Maybe you need to try something different than having these lawmakers who play the political game all the time setting the voting map. You could have like statisticians and different community reps who are hopefully screened somehow for neutrality. I guess you'd have like representatives from both parties that would try to gauge their neutrality. People who study demographics, the commission could use some sort of transparent system like data that says, okay, with population made equal, we did our best in terms of geographic the contiguousness of these counties or whatever, and the other borders involved, cities, whatever. You'd have to make it independent of like party affiliation and voting history data. So, but I mean, definitely not elected lawmakers deciding the voting map. That's just going to cause any kind of major problems. It would, in essence, be like letting the various representatives of Congress change the border of the states to satisfy their voting district desires. It's completely ridiculous.